Press. All right. So I'm going to introduce myself in case some of you guys don't know me. My name is Janice Jaicks, and I am the owner of the FitnessFest Conference and Expo. It is a live event, and we expect to get back to those live events. We were supposed to have FitnessFest outside of Phoenix, April 16th to the 19th. We've been lucky enough to reschedule rather than cancel. So we will see you September 24th to the 27th. FitnessFest has been around for 22 years, I'm proud to say. And we just love connecting and the human touch. So we hope to all get back together with you guys. I figure you all feel the same. And we also do retreats. An annual retreat. So I'm the owner of Desert Moon Endeavors and Desert Swim School, which is a swim school for kids. So I would like to introduce to you our three speakers. And Cedric Bryant is Dr. Cedric Bryant is the President and Chief Science Officer for ACE and shares his expertise by serving on committees and advisory boards for a number of thought-leading health and medical organizations, including the National Academy of Medicine, World Health Organization, and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. So when Cedric agreed, and anyone who's been in the industry for a while knows the name Cedric. And when he agreed to be on the call, I was like super stoked. So thank you, Cedric, for taking the time to share with us today.
It is an honor. And I was stoked that you asked me. So we were both stoked.
All right. And then Ryan Glatt. Ryan is a personal trainer and brain health coach with over a decade of experience. He currently practices brain-based strategies for cognitive enhancement at the Pacific Brain Health Center in Los Angeles. He's pursued education from Amen Clinics, Neuroscience Academy, Academy for Brain Health and Performance, and the Masters of Applied Neuroscience program at King's College of London. Recently, Ryan has released the Brain Health Trainer course, which is the first comprehensive course to be released on the top of brain health and exercise. And we are excited to have Ryan do his pre-con on brain health at FitnessFest on September 27th. So if you haven't already, I mean, what a great topic and what a great expert on it. So if you haven't already signed up for that, we can tell you more about that later. So thank you, Ryan, for also taking the time to share with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And Jonathan Ross. Jonathan is 80 pounds of parents directly inspired his fitness career. He is an international presenter. Jonathan presented for us at FitnessFest a few years ago, and he's pretty well known in the industry as well. He has multiple Personal Training of the Year awards, including ACE, IDEA, and PFP Magazine. He's the creator of Funtensity. He happens to have his t-shirt on saying so today. He's also a brain fitness expert, blogger, and master trainer for the American Council on Exercise and specializes in delivering fitness to those who need it the most. So thank you, Jonathan, and I should mention that you are also a member of the Admirals Club, but that's a private joke. And thank you for hopping on, Jonathan. All right, so we are going to get to our 4 questions or topics. And they all have great advice and tips and feedback, but the first question I'm going to let Ryan lead with, and it's how has this pandemic affected our brains and our psyche? Ryan?
Sure. Thanks for doing this, Janice. I'm not an expert in the COVID pandemic, but I think
who is?
say that in the news, in our own experiences, and working with and watching our clients, I think it's safe to say we're experiencing a mental health crisis, both because directly and indirectly of COVID, for a lot of reasons. People are in a lot of trials and tribulations, difficult times. Almost every email you send or receive is prefaced with, I know these are challenging times, so on and so forth. So I think it's a mutual understanding globally that this is a really tough time. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. But with that said, the problems or the crisis at large is about mental health and therefore brain health, which I'll explain, but no one's talking about the obesity crisis or diabetes crisis, the things that you normally hear about in the fitness industry, a lot of what we connect our whys to are not at the forefront. Right now, it's about mental health. And so there's a lot of implications of that. I think the effects on our psyche are, there's a lot of, I work with a hospital that I'm just down the street from right now, and there's been several healthcare workers that have been with the hospital for a long time that have committed suicide. There's a lot of patients who are dealing with mental health issues. At the Pacific Brain Health Center, we work with a lot of people with neurological deficits or concerns, and they don't get this time back. And so they were accountable to trainers and therapists. And if we don't find ways of keeping people active and motivated to be active, we're walking out of this with worse mental and physical health outcomes. And that is a big concern. And the fitness industry is also hit very hard. I think all of us have had our share of tribulations professionally and therefore psychologically as a result of this. But I think the opportunity is more than just going virtual. It's about connecting our passions and skill sets with the current needs. So instead of offering a weight loss program, it might be more effective at these times to offer a mental health workout, if you will. And so the effects on the brain, certainly mental health has its effects on cognition and brain structure and function. Without getting too much deeper into neuroscience, there's this concept of cognitive reserve, where it's almost like your brain's gas tank, and it can run high or it can run low. And certain things like mental health and social isolation reduce that gas tank and, for example, increase the risk of things like dementia. But as you have changes to environment and changes to your physical activity levels and changes to your nutrition, for example, my French fry intake has increased 24% because delivery food is so available and delicious. Physical activity habits are changing. All these factors contribute to cognitive decline. They also contribute to cognitive reserve. So the tide is against us, and for our brains to be taken care of, we need mental health and brain health checks more than we do physical health checks, if you will. Now, I'm not trying to create a separation. That's been the problem to begin with. It's about the brain and the body. And if you look at the CDC's website, their first recommendation is take care of your body. And I think that's an opportunity for us, and to recognize that that's an opportunity for not only our clients, but the communities that we serve at large. And now that community has opened up beyond your studio or your clients, has opened up worldwide, really. So while it is challenging, I do see an opportunity for the entire fitness industry. And I know we're going to talk later about how to move forward a plan of action based on this. But this cognitive reserve hypothesis is a good way to look at it. I would say that with more stress and with mental health issues, with modifications to our environment and our lifestyle, our cognition, our mental thinking abilities, things like attention, memory, processing speed, a group of cognitive functions called executive functions, which are like the CEO of your brain. It's likely that you are the CEO of your business, or a partial CEO, or you have to think like a business. And there's so many messages going around of you have to pivot, and you have to be on Facebook, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. And people you might be experiencing challenges in making decisions because stress and environmental changes impair these executive functions. So for ourselves, it's important to recognize that it's not that there's a problem with us, or that we're lazy or we're not smart enough. It's that these are stressful times, and stress impairs cognition. For our clients, when we're talking about motivating them, they know that exercise is important, but it might be that we need to educate them further about the benefits of exercise on mental health. But even if they have the knowledge doesn't dictate behavior. Environment can often dictate behavior. But for ourselves, we might be feeling, hey, I'm a fitness instructor. Why am I not as healthy as I was? And you might say things to yourself like, I'm lazy, or I'm stupid, or this isn't, I'm not really adhering to what I preach. I don't practice what I preach, but your cognition may be impaired because of the times. I think it's important to recognize that you wouldn't take it personally if your blood pressure went up. And cognition can be like blood pressure sometimes. And it's sensitive. The brain's the most sensitive end organ. So it's sensitive to a lot of these changes. So I think it's helpful to know that we can identify things, and while we can't separate them out scientifically, we can put things in buckets, put things in a mental health bucket, put things in a cognitive bucket, and know it's okay that those things are optimal right now. So I would say that's the best overview I can give without taking too much time of how this pandemic has affected our brains and psyche.
Whew, that was wonderful. Great information, Ryan. And Jonathan, you want to continue that conversation?
Sure. I think really what we're seeing is this effect on our brains and psyche. Really, there's two different ways of looking at it. One is us as an industry, the professionals practicing in the industry, and the effect it's having on us, because many people are essentially having, almost overnight, your business was essentially shut down if you're just doing training and classes. And that's a huge challenge, just mentally, just even to get over that hurdle, to then, even if you're pivoting to doing virtual classes with people, you have to be in the right emotional space and bring that energy and be that instructor. And that's just so tough. If your mood is down here, to get yourself up to that high cruising altitude that you need to be a leader can be very difficult. So what I would usually recommend in those situations is create an easy win for yourself to start each day. If you're feeling a little bit down, just pick something that's low-hanging fruit that you can do, that you know you're really good at, and will be fairly easy for you to do, so you feel successful, and you kind of build a little positive momentum in the day. Aside from that, get moving, even if it's just a little walk, because we know that you're one bout of physical activity, not even a workout, but you're one bout of physical activity away from a good mood. And we know this and we teach it and we preach it, but sometimes we get tunnel vision when things look dark. And one thing that we know about depressive mindsets and downward looking states is that it tends to make you have a more narrow view of what is possible in life. So if we begin to feel a little bit dark and sad, and there are monumental struggles, I'm feeling them as well, I try to focus as much of my day as I can on the things that I can actually affect and control and influence to move in a positive direction, no matter how small that movement may be. That helps me feel like I'm taking action in a positive way. And certainly there are challenges that will bring you down, but know that nothing that's terrible lasts forever, and nothing that's positive lasts forever either. Life is a series of ups and downs, and if we can always remind ourselves that, and like Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going. Because if you stop, you're stuck in hell. And that's the biggest thing for us as an industry, is to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to take action? Maybe to do something right now, but also to think about what's coming next. What do I have to do a year from now, 2 years from now? What do I have to do to change about how I deliver information? And one thing that I can't recommend enough is Brian's Brain Health Trainer course, because it'll teach you what to know about brain health, which is one area the public is very interested in now. They were anyway before this. And to understand now that there's more of a direct and keen interest in it, because people are noticing now that their gyms are closed. So this is the other half of the psyche and the mentality question, is people can't do what they used to do, and they used to be kept in check with their behaviors mostly by the routines and the schedules of their daily lives, and those are gone now. So now it's really up to them. And they're finding that within a very short period of time, without that structure, because they don't have a lot of intrinsic motivators, they don't have that desire for something positive with fitness, they're finding it hard to do so. And they're also finding that when you feel closed in, when you feel depressed, when you feel restricted, you have a lack of hope. And a little bit of movement put back into your day that puts a smile on your face, that involves reactivity and coordination, which challenges the brain, can also affect your mood state. So I'm going to close with this one statement that I've been trying to teach everyone, really even other fitness professionals that I can hopefully influence, is that we have to remember for ourselves, but also for the people that we teach, that we can't change a body in a single workout, but we can change a mind, both in the short term with how you feel, but also in the long term with your attitudes, your feelings, and your opinions about exercise to make them more positive.
That's awesome, Jonathan. As always, great positive things to say. So thank you for that. Cedric, you want to continue with the conversation?
Sure. Thanks, Janice. Well, first, Ryan and Jonathan have done a terrific job of, I think, kind of laying out, some of the science and the rationale with regard to what we're facing. But the couple things I want to hit on is that this time can be characterized by change and uncertainty. And most of us are very comfortable with change if it doesn't involve us. And unfortunately, with this pandemic, we're all impacted by some changes. And as Jonathan alluded to, much of that change has resulted in a disruption of what we consider normal. And when that happens, it really it really shakes up everything in terms of how we approach our daily lives in terms of what our disciplines are. And so things that were somewhat automatic for us become more of a challenge. And some of those automatic things are some of those healthy lifestyle behaviors that are really important in helping to set us up for success in dealing with these kind of uncertain and unknown challenges that are going to continue to present themselves to us. The other thing that's happening is that with the isolation, there comes loneliness. And with loneliness, it's associated with a reduction in one's mood state, greater propensity toward anxiety and depression and so forth. And so one of the things that I think that it's really kind of piggybacking on something that Jonathan said, a good friend of mine has a great phrase that I love where he says, ordinary things done daily produce extraordinary results. And so taking those just small, consistent steps and being intentional about trying to, as much as possible, stay within some sort of routine so that you can really get on a schedule and be intentional about scheduling time for that all important self-care. One of the things, while Zoom and technology is great, if it's anything like what I experienced, I find myself in front of my screen so often on various conference calls, video conferences, and so forth, and back to back to back to back, it can be extraordinarily fatiguing. And it doesn't allow a lot of space and energy for taking care of oneself. And so you have to be very intentional and purposeful about scheduling breaks and time in to really take advantage of caring for yourself. And so, you know, one of the things that I've started to do is to make sure when I'm scheduling meetings, I'm very intentional about not scheduling back-to-backs anymore, giving myself at least a half an hour between meetings so I can get up and do something positive and healthy for myself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be healthy enough and positioned well enough, both physically and mentally, to really do what you love to do, and that is to serve others.
That's great advice, Cedric. That's so true. We've got to take care of ourselves. We've got to take breaks. And yeah, it can be exhausting, you know, sitting in front of a screen over and over again, and not, you know, not too healthy if you do it too consistently and don't do anything else. Get out there and get some sunshine, some fresh air, walk around the block. You know, we're lucky in Arizona to have such great weather, but no matter where you are in the country, you can figure out how to get outside, I'm sure, even if you have to bundle up, right? So we're going to move on to number 2. How can we mentally prepare ourselves to motivate our clients and students? So how can we mentally prepare ourselves so that we can motivate the people that we serve? Jonathan, why don't we start with you?
Sure. One powerful way to do this is to realize that this time we're in now presents a terrific opportunity. And I know you hear this kind of thing a lot, that in every challenge is an opportunity, and it sounds cliche. And this is a difficult time. I mean, for me, my personal coping strategy is I normally sleep around 7.5 to 8 hours a night. It's closer to 9 to 10, because even though I'm pivoting to make things positive, there's still that background processing and your brain is just really stressed. So I'm just needing more rest. So I'm making sure I get that. And we all have these challenges, and I'm sharing that just simply because I'm a human and I will have my challenges as well. What I'm doing to make sure I motivate people, and also what I would recommend the industry do, is recognize that as frustrating as it is when we see that the public thinks of fitness as a way to get a great ass and great abs, it's one of those things that everybody's focused on. That's not happening anymore. Now people are realizing, probably for the first time ever, the effect that fitness has on just their overall life quality on a day-to-day basis, in a very acute level, from their interactions with their family members and coworkers and neighbors and friends, to their more long-term objectives for the things that they really value in life. And this is an opportunity for us to become better coaches, which means we're not just teaching exercise, we're not just teaching fitness, we're actually teaching the way to be healthy and well 24 hours a day. It really is a lifestyle. And I know we all really believe that, but for those of us that really just zero in on the fitness part of it only, it's going to be a challenging time, because now we have resources available like the ACE Health Coach certification, or if you're not geared up for a full-on certification, just the Behavior Change Specialist course, which is terrific at putting into practice some of the health coaching methodologies that you maybe find in a more abstract way in a certification. But we have a huge opportunity to start presenting wellness and health behaviors to people in such a way that they become more motivated to take action. And I'm seeing now this terrific opportunity because I've been doing this for years anyway, but I'm finding people are looking for something a little more deep with fitness. They're not looking for just, at least the majority of people, especially most adults of almost any age, are looking for something a little more of substance and something a little more robust than just a buff body now. And this presents us a great opportunity if we understand brain health and we understand how to effectively deliver information, so that if I can light your inner spark for health behaviors, I can create motivation for you. I don't have to try to motivate you myself. If I can switch on your inner light that makes you have a desire for health behaviors, it makes it so much easier for you to follow through and engage in those behaviors on a consistent basis. When your actions are pointed one way, but your desires are pointed another way, that's misery. If my actions and my desires are pointing in the same direction, that's harmony. And I feel a great sense of peace and confidence about what I'm doing. So if I'm engaging in fitness behaviors and because I have to, but I really would prefer to be sitting at home on the couch, not exercising, then I'm going to only last so long doing that. But now people are maybe more willing to take a look at the deeper motivators in fitness, because all their usual reasons for doing so and the routines and going to the gym and the classes, now it has to come from within, because most people are home all the time anyway. So there's this greater need to look within. And if we can lead that and help people shine a light on their inner desire for exercise, which most people don't even know yet. So if you get into coaching, you'll ask people, why do you want to do this? And they'll say, well, I don't know, I want to be in shape. And you say, well, what does that mean? And they go, well, I don't know, I just want to have more energy. And it's these vague answers. And all we have to do is keep digging and peeling back the layers. We can uncover what people love about life if we ask enough questions. And once we uncover what they love about life, we can teach them how whatever they love about life gets better when you do it in a fit, capable body, and you can do it with the people that you love. And there's no better way to present fitness to people than asking them to figure out whatever's most important to them. And then we marry fitness to that. And we show them that whatever they most value about life, fitness will make it better. And this is the time to focus on that, instead of just losing the pounds for the wedding or to get in shape for bathing suit season or all the superficial reasons that are typically right in front of them. Those are kind of gone now. And we have a tremendous opportunity to just become better coaches instead of just fitness instructors.
It's just wonderful advice and stuff that we are now, it's coming more to light, even though trainers probably should have been digging deeper and asking the right questions all along. But this is one of the many things that this situation has taught us. And I'm also really happy to hear that buff bodies are out. So personally, I appreciate that. So
yeah, it's turning just enough that we can see the opportunity in it.
Right. All right. Cedric, you want to continue with that?
Sure. I agree with Jonathan. It's quite encouraging that the conversation is starting to shift beyond kind of the aesthetic reasons as to why individuals might, consider becoming physically active, and really, thinking about all the larger, more important reasons. And I want to talk with you briefly about two initiatives that I've been involved with for the last couple of years, and it really relates to kind of where we are now, in that the World Health Organization has an initiative called the Global Action Plan for Promoting Physical Activity. And what spurred this on is looking at all the other many reasons why being physically active is so important, namely its contribution to helping to prevent and control the most common chronic conditions, as well as mental health issues. And so you have a standard setting organization like the World Health Organization, who recognizes what you do matters beyond the buff butts and everything else, but it really makes a difference in people's lives. And what they defined, they look at things as kind of best buys from a health standpoint, and they defined maintaining a physically active lifestyle in 2016 as a best buy. And how they define a best buy is something that has a consistently demonstrated positive impact on improving or addressing a significant health condition with little or no side effects. And so what we do is perfect medicine. And we're finally starting to get recognized by organizations that can actually influence and help to bridge that gap that has existed far too long between fitness and healthcare. And the CDC is follows closely what the WHO does. And so the CDC has just launched an initiative about a year ago. It's called Active Nation, Healthy People. And Active People, Healthy Nation. And so what the premise there is that if we can get more people in our country physically active, that it's going to result in improving population health. And what their goal is by the year 2027 to have 27 million individuals being more active than they currently are today. And so what it is, if you're currently a couch potato, if we can get you to go from the couch to doing something, that's about 15 million of those folks. And then they want to try to get 10 million people who are already doing something to increase their activity to a level of meeting the guidelines of 150 more minutes of activity accumulated on most days of the week, to include two sessions of resistance training. And then the remaining 2 million of that 27 million is to get more kids meeting the standard recommendations for kids. And so you've got these really influential public health bodies that are recognizing and affirming the tremendous value that all of you offer with the opportunities you have in working with your clients. But one of the things that they see as a challenge and a sticking point is, Ryan said it at the very beginning, if you ask 10 people whether they should be more physically active, 9 out of 10 would easily say, yes, I should. But only 2 out of 10 would do so. So what's the disconnect between those 2 and those 9? And what they finally come to recognize, it's really about behavior change science. These guys are talking about brain health. It's really helping people to start that journey of lifestyle behavior change. And that's where you guys come in, because it's really being able to understand what a person's true needs and desires are. Jonathan aptly referred to as really kind of understanding their deeper why, and then being able to collaborate with them on finding what's the right solution for them as an individual, and helping them on that journey, and let them know that with the journey, there are going to be ups and downs, there are going to be detours, but using that analogy of walking through hell, if they just keep walking on that journey, on the other side, there's going to be some really tremendously valuable results that they're going to experience. And that's really what you guys are. You guys are change agents for people's lives. And own it and embrace it. And our industry is going to be able to, I think, take its rightful position on the healthcare continuum. Because to me, optimum healthcare is a team sport. And we need and deserve to be members of that team. And for the first time in my 30-plus year career, I have a high degree of optimism that the healthcare community is starting to recognize the real value that we have to offer.
And that gives me goosebumps. And really, this is a lot of good things are going to come out of this situation. I prefer to call it a situation than a pandemic, but more positive. And so that's awesome. Thank you, Cedric. Ryan, you want to continue with the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, Cedric almost made me cry, so I'll try to rebound there in a good way. That was beautiful. In a good way. So, I mean, when it comes to behavior change for our clients, there's a lot that goes into it. So there's the more top-down, what I'd say the cognitive stuff, which is probably most of what I'll talk about. There's more of the bottom-up, the approach bias, meaning that some people don't know why they're not doing something or doing something. Some people just have an aversion to certain things. This is more autonomic, and some people may be really adverse to working out, period, or working out in a group or working out at home. Some people just have these strong preferences, but I want to speak to the more top-down cognitive stuff that can determine behavior. I mentioned a big, scary word earlier called executive functions, which is, once again, just those group of cognitive functions that allow you to plan, to organize, to temporarily hold things in your head, to control your impulses. I think it's fair to say that executive functions play a significant role in behavior change. Now, even though it's not neuroscientifically accurate, this thing called amygdala hijack, where everyone's probably heard of the amygdala, this emotional fear-based center in your brain, it does a lot more than that. But when people are stressed or they're tired or they're really in the midst of a trial or a challenge, it's likely that amygdala is going to be more active, and that does something called amygdala hijack. And once again, it's just a useful way to think about it. It's not entirely accurate. And those executive functions are downregulated. In addition, people with chronic disease, mental health condition, cardiovascular condition, people that their circadian rhythm is thrown off, you will have reduced executive functions, or at least it's likely you will. So the role that we can play is people can outsource their executive functions to us. And some people have defined coaching as the process of self-directed neuroplasticity. We are facilitating that. Facilitation is a Latin derivative of facile, which is easy. So we are trying to make change easy. And if we can act as people's executive functions, meaning we can help them plan, organize, control their impulses, reframe failures and negative experiences with things like cognitive behavioral coaching, that is the opportunity that both Cedric and Jonathan have so beautifully put forward. As Jonathan said, one of the best resources that I've had as a professional is ACE's Behavior Change Specialist course to really understand the field of positive psychology and techniques for how to do this. But to give it a more cognitive perspective, it's less about people's personalities and less about people's intelligence and more about people's brain states. And coaching can be used to help people achieve a better brain state and therefore better behavior. So I would say that's the opportunity, is how can you be someone's executive functions for them? If you talk to any of your clients, you might be able to pick up, oh, they need help planning things. They need help controlling their impulses. They just don't know what to do. So at this point in time, it may not be useful to just tell people to exercise. For me, I've really reduced the amount that I'm actually facilitating exercise sessions for people and more helping them problem solve how to have their own exercise program without me. And now a lot of people say, well, I don't want to replace myself as a trainer. But if you think about the opportunity with all these virtual services available, I'm basically playing chess with their goals and these resources to help them develop better self-efficacy. And it's almost, in my opinion, they're almost at a better place now than they are when they were working with me. Because when they were working with me, the context was that they show up for an exercise session, I facilitate it for them, and they leave. And while I can talk about what's important to do outside the context of that, that was never the focus of my services. But now most of my services are, quote unquote, plugging the leak of physical inactivity for a lot of the patients I work with. This is especially important for people with neurological conditions that if they don't exercise, for example, people with Parkinson's or mild cognitive impairment or post-stroke, they will come out with worse outcomes. So they're motivated because they can access this conveniently. They don't have all this appointment burden. They don't have to drive. They don't have to go from a doctor's appointment to their physical therapist to their personal trainer. They can develop this sense of self-efficacy. And I think it's a skill set that is an opportunity now for us to help them develop. And when I see the amount of people, or I hear about the amount of people that have stopped exercising, but I also hear the amount of trainers that are losing their jobs or are out of work, I see an opportunity for people to upskill their behavior change skill sets, as Jonathan said, to be able to deliver things like that. So instead of becoming a personal trainer and a rep counter, you're more of a skill teacher and someone who can facilitate positive change for people. And if you want to add nutrition to that and life coaching to that, I mean, the world is your oyster. And I think it's more about adding new diversified value to what you do. And so I don't know if anyone else has encountered this, but some patients or clients I'll follow up with, and they almost have this wall up, like, no, I'm not interested in what you have to offer right now. But how can we reframe that and think, how can I solve the problems they're having now? Because they're not the problems they had 3 months ago. They're different. The luxury, and sometimes fitness can be a luxury for people. Hopefully we're moving it towards the narrative of necessity, as Cedric said, which I think we're doing a very good job of. But how are you adapting to that? Because a lot of people have engaged their clientele based on the fact that their services might be a luxury. How do we reframe that to solve people's problems in the current times?
That's so great. Great feedback. Great advice there, Ryan. Thank you so much. Such good stuff. We're getting such great feedback from everybody saying how this is so great and so amazing, and everybody's just really chiming in and listening. So Third question, what does a good plan of action look like, and how do we define goals of the new normal? And we've kind of touched on a few things, but again, what does a good plan of action look like, and how do we define goals of the new normal? Cedric, you want to start that conversation?
Sure. I'll take a stab at that.
Yeah.
The first thing to recognize is that, in my opinion, your new normal is now. Okay, you're already starting to make, you made adjustments in your lifestyles, you made adjustments in those of you who are still interacting with clients to some degree, but I think to really try to, reimagine who you are and what you do. And I would offer a suggestion in terms of look at yourself as being much more than just a person who can show someone how to exercise properly, how to perform, movement safely and so forth, and be able to, come up with the right programs, but really think in a larger context of really being that trusted advisor that can come alongside individuals and help them to really make lifestyle changes and make lifestyle changes on a multidimensional basis. And that's where I agree with Ryan in terms of take advantage of this downtime, if you will, to try to upskill your abilities to be able to make yourself even more necessary to the people you have opportunity to have relationship with. And I think, you think about the names, we talk about, personal trainers and, we're personal trainers, what have you. And I think it's personal trainer for a reason in that you've got to be able to establish a personal connection with another human being. And this time has caused us, I think, to be more creative in how we go about establishing that personal connection. But really, one of the most powerful ways in which we establish connection with people is effectively listening to them. And one of the things that I think happens in our space oftentimes is that because we learn a lot and we're quite knowledgeable, we have such a strong desire to impart and share that knowledge on the people we have opportunity to work with. And it's more about what we can share as opposed to understanding who they are. And we really have to understand that the individual you're working with is the most knowledgeable person on the planet with regard to him or her. It's not us. And so therefore we have to really work on those effective listening skills. And I think of kind of an ABC approach, if you will. Start by asking really powerful questions and listening intently to those responses and rephrase those, say them back to the person to make sure what you think you heard is exactly what they were trying to convey. Next, the B is look at trying to identify what might be barriers to their success. And if success is defined as establishing a regular activity habit, identify what those barriers might be and find out what strategies they may have employed prior to overcome those barriers. And then the C is to collaborate. Work collaboratively with that client to come up with effective solutions. Because if you make them part of establishing what the solutions are and what the plan is, the adherence is going to be exponentially stronger.
Great stuff. Great stuff, Cedric. And let's continue that conversation with Jonathan.
I'm going to go right to the heart of this. I think this is, again, a great opportunity for all of us to have this action plan. The action plan is be more than just a fitness professional. Be I make you your best self professional, or however you want to start studying posture, start studying movement quality, start studying self-massage, things that are all secondary and related to exercise itself, and study brain health. I can tell you my plan of action is to make myself irreplaceable. And how I'm doing that, like for example, in my Funtensity workouts, they're normally in person. And the foundation of them is that we use reactivity, coordination, partner interactivity, and friendly competition. Well, right now we can't have physical contact. There needs to be a return to that. So getting back to normal is going to mean that there's always going to be a place for hugs, high fives, and handshakes in this world. And anyone that would try to tell you otherwise is wrong because they're ignoring the science of how humans develop healthy as babies and stay healthy as adults, mentally and physically. So that even if we can't have that now though, when I do workouts now, I will make sure there's some reactivity involved. So I might call out something like an odd even number or tell you to move right or left, or call out, make it reactive. We switch direction based on verbal commands or visual commands. They're just following my movements. Or maybe I have people partner up even though they're 6 feet apart and they're just looking at a lot of things based on what the person is doing. So we still have an opportunity to be unique and present exercise in such a way that it's beneficial for the short-term acute response someone has to move, also for the brain benefit. Because we know that brain health is important at all. We also know that it's even more improved by specific types of exercise. And if we're including those specific things like skill-based activities, reactivity, coordination, some throwing and catching, some visual, verbal, and auditory reactivity, we will have a better response, both in the short term and the acute emotional response people have to exercise. And I cannot stress enough that that is the biggest transformation that we can deliver for someone. I said it earlier, and I mean it. We can't change a body in a single workout, but we can change a mind. And if I change your attitude and your thoughts and feelings and just your beliefs about exercise, because I made it fun, yet still challenging enough for you that you want more of it, you become more drawn to it. And to me, that's the action plan. So this is where us as fitness professionals, we take the opportunity to be beyond just fitness, the workout part of it. We look at posture, we look at movement quality, we look at recovery strategies, we look at brain health, we look at everything that looks like it's secondary, but it's actually foundational because we cannot truly segment all of those things apart from each other. All fitness is mind-body fitness. And we have to embrace the whole person in everything that we do in a way that we never really have before.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully said. I won't wait to be called. I'll just jump in here. So, I mean, the plan of action for the new normal, if you will, Cedric and Jonathan, you put it forward very well in terms of having these skill sets of behavior change and making yourself irreplaceable and as valuable as possible. My bias in this, but I think a lot of people would agree that the new normal is actually addressing not a new market, but the people that have been labeled as the most at risk. We're talking cancer, cardiorespiratory, immune system issues, people who are at high risk, the 55, the 65 plus market that are not going to immediately start leaving the home as soon as the things open up. Because there's going to be individuals that are labeled as at risk that are either going to be afraid or can't leave or want to build up their health and resilience immunologically, psychologically, physically as much as possible. So the way I see it is trainers that may have lost work or lost business that maybe are working with a population that see their service as optional. I think the new normal is that trainers have the opportunity to provide these services to people that find exercise and health coaching essential. And that is the population I'm working with. And my business is not affected because of that, because these people find it essential. And it's helping them find ways to stay active that may include my direct services or facilitation of exercise sessions or health coaching. And that population also needs those behavior change skill sets, is also going to need corrective exercise, is also going to need mindfulness and all sorts of different services. So if you can make yourself that irreplaceable professional and you can upregulate your behavior change skill sets, and then you can go after these populations that really need your services. So that's what I would say is the new opportunity here is to do that. Now, in order to do that, you need to start networking a little bit differently. You can start speaking out in your community. You can start doing word of mouth services. You can use Facebook marketing. You could reach out to medical professionals. And certainly there's, this is not a webinar on how to do that. But there's plenty of resources out there and services out there to help you do that. And I think people might start thinking, oh, well, how do I reach out to a doctor and a neurologist and et cetera? And that gets very stressful to think about. But if you set that goal and you want to work with these populations, I think it's really needed, and I don't think you're going to have a hard time. In addition, it's not just about one-on-one clients, it's also about groups. So I think the beautiful thing is that Zoom has, of course, groups were possible in person, but Zoom has opened up the possibility for larger groups, for more groups, and even though we don't have the touch, and I know there's Zoom fatigue, just seeing people and being with people, just psychologically knowing that taps into that primitive and essential socialization, if you will. And so just to be around groups, I think, is really important right now to create a sense of community.
I love it. Creating a sense of community. And so you are right. There are so many opportunities. And I love what you said about that your business has not, you're serving people and your business has not changed, or somebody's playing music. Can everybody make sure they're muted?
It's very nice music, by the way.
That is nice.
Very nice.
I'm enjoying it.
I'll turn it off. Yeah.
Okay, Debbie again. Okay. That's funny. All right. So anyway, you have, there are opportunities that we've got to be creative. I love a quote that says, change and adapt or get run over. So, just good stuff. We'll continue with our last question is, how do we stay focused on our goals amidst the pandemic, amidst the situation? Cedric, want to start us off?
Yeah, I would say one is just to try as much as possible to maintain a healthy perspective on things, because even under normal circumstances, if we're honest with ourselves, life is uncertain. I mean, that is just a reality of life. And it's times like this where it becomes painfully apparent to us. But understand that you are equipped, you have the resilience, you have the tools to handle this and whatever else unknown lays out there before us. One of the things I do is I have a call with the CDC's COVID response task team, and they give us an update on Monday afternoons. And one of the things that they talked about is that this is such an uncertain virus in that each week it changes in terms of what they know, what they learn, what they understand. And what they are encouraging people to do is to lose our obsession and our almost singular focus on COVID, and think about all the skills and resources that we have to effectively manage our lives. And I think that's some really wise counsel, in that if we're so focused and obsessed with the quote unquote problem or pandemic, we lose sight of all the wonderful coping skills and skills to help others that we possess, and we miss out on opportunity. And so my recommendation to all of you is to take an inventory of all the wonderful skills, strengths, and abilities that you have and put those into practice. And look at where you can have a little impact wherever your circle of opportunity is, given some of the constraints that we face right now.
I love it. And I just wrote a blog about, a few of the things that you were saying. And I personally try to use more positive words and not to just be obsessed with, you've got to stay up on what's going on with the news, but not being obsessed with it and not always using words like hunker down and pandemic and COVID-19 and looking for the positive in things. So love it. And then let's, Jonathan, you want to continue the conversation?
Sure. I think the most important thing is, don't panic. You hear that all the time. Usually it's at a time when people are most likely to panic. So those kind of things aren't very helpful. I think it's really important for us to change our perspective throughout the day, to do multiple different things. And what I mean is, just focus on something small and simple. If you feel like you need to sit and stare out a window and look at the trees for 10 minutes, do that. And then also have that time where you dedicate to zeroing in on focusing on your goals and doing what you need to adapt and adjust and it feels like you don't have enough time in the day, even though you have more because of the need to learn many new things to adjust and figure them out. And I get that. However, there's still value in feeding ourselves just in a minute by minute basis, what helps us feel more calm and at peace and in control of our lives, instead of feeling like we're not doing the next thing on the task list to achieve the goals. Life really isn't about achieving goals. It's having an effect on people's lives, especially in the context of fitness. It's that, so if I'm able to interact with you during this time, I mean, my hope for doing this is that everyone listening has had a positive effect from being involved with this, and everything that's being said, everything we're talking about, you're leaving it being a better person. So I can find solace even in the short term that I had maybe a positive effect on someone that's listening to this. And that gives me the confidence to then feel renewed and recharged and revitalized and have a renewed sense of enthusiasm to put some focus on the things that I need to. But again, I'm zeroing in on the things I can control. Yes, we do have to educate ourselves about what's going on in the world, but we also have to appreciate the fatigue mentally that can happen, because we do not have brains that are equipped to deal with an immediate ability to know all of the horrible and awful things going on around the world at all times. Think about how long it would have taken people around the world, everywhere, to learn that the Titanic sank. Now that would be, within 30 minutes of that happening, there'd be news crawls everywhere and you'd be getting alerts on your phone. So all of the misery and all of the horror and all of the suffering that's going on around the world is not meant to be something we're meant to grapple with at once. And having a time when you can shut that off is very valuable. So I would encourage everyone to help you stay focused on your goals. Give yourself parameters for when you're going to let the outside world in. After a certain hour of the night, turn off notifications for your phone, put it in do not disturb mode, set it that way automatically, put your family members in there. If it's an emergency, they can still get through, but give yourself that peace from letting in the outside world so you can zero in on what you value most and what you can do to sustain and regenerate yourself and your spirit to keep you up for all the people that you need to be up for.
They're on.
That is so, I love it. So perfect. So perfect, Jonathan. Ryan, last but not least.
Yeah, well, when it comes to staying focused, I'm the worst person to ask because of my ADHD. I definitely know why I'm not focused, and I can speak to that. Certainly, environment can dictate behavior. So when it comes to a change in environment, I know when my workplace to my home, I'm like, why am I pacing and eating all the time? This is so weird, Why am I working less? And so having compensatory strategies like planners, coaches, accountability partners, schedules, that stuff can be helpful. I think what's going around right now, Cedric alluded to it, is the Zoom fatigue. And that is definitely, the Zoom-inspired brain fog, if you will. And, that is challenging. Our attentional resources are limited to begin with, but the eyes are a window to the brain. And, we evolved to see a lot of different things and move around. And if you studied cavemen, it's unlikely that paleontologists would say, yes, these cavemen stared at the wall for 10 hours straight, and that's how they evolved. That is not how they evolved. So, for us to just stare at a screen, even if there's heads moving around and stuff like that, is exhausting. So you have eye fatigue, you have screen fatigue, the retinal film that usually gets hydrated by blinking, you're blinking less, and that causes headaches and all this stuff. I mean, it's complex, but the idea is that staring at a screen all day is really challenging, and you will have this attentional fatigue. And Cedric put it beautifully. You've got to give yourself a break. I have been, stacking Zoom sessions one after the other to feel productive. And then I'm like, why am I so tired? This is crazy, right? And so Cedric, you said it well, take breaks. And the neuroscience of that is that there's two brain networks worth discussing. There's the central executive network, and a brain network is just how brain dynamics work together, kind of like the posterior chain of the brain. It's not just the gastrocnemius, you have the whole posterior chain. Well, the brain also has these coordinative networks. And so the central executive network is the focused, I am working those executive functions. And because those resources are limited, you can't turn that on and keep that on forever, right? So what some people interpret as a stress signal or as a signal that they're not doing so well is often fatigue or exhaustion. And then there's the default mode network, which is the mind wandering network. You want to be able to go for a walk. You want to be able to look at the horizon, go from a focal visual fixation, which upregulates the sympathetic response, to more open parasympathetic peripheral vision, which really regulates and activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So you can't look at the Grand Canyon being pissed off, right? But this bifocally binded vision causes this autonomic arousal. So with all those things considered, I'm going to make it very simple. Stay calm, think ahead, take breaks, don't get caught up in the chaos, and stay connected.
Great.
Well said, Ryan.
Well said, all three of you. And I would love the three of you to, if you've got some personal recaps, because we'll follow up with an email. If you've got some personal recaps that you want to email me, and then I can keep the chat. And if anybody wants to chat any more about some takeaways, we can include them in the follow-up email. I think I successfully recorded it this time and actually figured out how to upload or download, whatever you call it, to YouTube.
See, good things happen.
Oh yeah, I'm the most untechnical person in the planet, and right now we're working on a short string budget and staff, but it's really a barefoot staff and budget. So we're doing the best we can, and I appreciate Gretchen and Amber being on the call to help with the chats and everything. And if anyone has any the three of you have any last comments before I wrap it up with what's going to be going on next week?
Sure. Just quickly, thanks, Janice, so much for inviting me to participate in this. It was a blast, and I just want to encourage all of you, understand who you really are. You guys are difference makers. You're not just people who do and lead workouts. You are life difference makers. And to Jonathan's point, you really got to understand all the value that you bring to the people you have an opportunity to get in and impact their lives. And so, and it's just a matter of time before healthcare recognizes the enormous value and impact that our space offers.
Amen. It's about time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ryan?
I'm gonna say I agree with that. I think this is a massive opportunity for the healthcare fitness integration. I'm of course biased, working in a hospital with a clinical population, but I have to say, the more I read about the people who are at risk and the people that are not receiving health and fitness services, with the amount of people looking for work or out of work or having a reduction in their clientele or groups, that is the opportunity in my mind, is to integrate with communities that need it most. And I think I've talked enough, but I gotta say, this has been my favorite. This has been my favorite Zoom call to be a part of and listen to. So thank you for putting this. That's like out of 36 Zoom calls in the past couple of weeks. So to be with Jonathan and Cedric, fantastic. I really enjoyed this.
Well, that's a great compliment. Thank you. Jonathan?
I'm going to close with a brief story, starting with a quote. There's something that you hear sometimes that says, "Be different to make a difference." And right before all this began, I had the pleasure of meeting a couple in my area that decided to start coming to try my Funtensity class. The neat thing about them, they're Debbie and Bob, and Debbie's a person that likes fitness classes. They're in their early 70s, and Bob's the type who works out. He's got his total gym at home, never liked fitness classes, but as a good husband, a good partner, he's always giving it a go when Debbie's dragging him to a new fitness class. And you know, he's a good sport, but in 20 years of trying, he's never found a class that he likes. Well, he came to my Funtensity class, and all he did was talk about the exercises all night. She told me he couldn't shut up about it, and they signed up for 3 months of classes, and it's been such a positive experience. It's a little isolated example of how when you do things differently than the fitness industry has traditionally done them, you will have an impact that you cannot even begin to imagine in terms of the scope of that impact on people. And the way we've presented fitness to the world up until now is like the world's greatest shoe store that has the best, highest quality shoes, but we only sell it in one size. And we keep telling the world how great our shoes are, and they keep telling us they don't fit their feet unless you happen to be that one person who likes to get under a barbell and grunt it out in front of a mirror. That's a very small percentage of the population. And this is our opportunity to actually be different, to make a difference, because you will touch a massively previously untapped population that we were not able to reach before. And this is forced innovation like we've never seen it before in the fitness industry. So I encourage everyone to embrace these non-traditional approaches to exercise to be that difference that you want to make in the world.
That's beautiful stuff, Jonathan. I mean, you hit it, you guys. You hit it right on the head, all three of you. Just wonderful stuff. Everyone is, I tried to enjoy, I was enjoying listening to everybody, so I tried to take a few notes, but, I really just got so much out of it personally. So any notes that you three have and the chat has so that we can share it. And when we share the update email, I send it to everybody who registers for the Zoom webinar, even if they didn't happen to catch on the call. So they will, a lot of people can't be on and they registered anyway. So any feedback from our talk today would be appreciated so that we can share with more, because it was just amazing stuff. So just in closing, thank you all for taking the time to hop on. And thank our three amazing speakers, because it was just so perfect. I loved it myself, and I know everybody else did too. And we will next Friday, which is May 8th. I can't believe it. We've got. We're going to have Eileen Sharon on, and she's a fitness legend. I don't know if she's on the call. She did register, but she does a lot of virtual workouts and filming, and she has for decades. So she's going to share that. Tyler Valencia, who's a friend and colleague of mine, made an amazing video of equipment you can use for virtual workouts and Zoom and all that. And so he's going to be on the call, because this is happening, and a lot of us want to know more about it. A lot of us are super scared on it, and some of you are already doing it. But Eileen and Tyler will give you some serious, good, solid tips about it. And then Denise and Bessie, I think I'm pronouncing her name right, but everybody knows Denise and Bessie from Muscle Mixes Music. She's been around for decades. And so she'll be on the call talking about licensing and music, and that's a big question too. So we look forward to that. Personally, with FitnessFest, what's going on is we are actually going to finally start live stream workshops ourselves in a couple weeks. We're going to take some of the lectures that we have already going on at FitnessFest, and we're going to, film them live. So look forward to that. So pay attention to your social media with us and your emails with us. And then we'll hope to see all of you live September 24th to the 27th. Also having a mind, body, spirit retreat, which we all are going to need, and that's in September as well. So that's our Desert Moon Endeavors retreat, and probably a lot more going on, but that's all I can think of now. So without